Real, raw, rooted in truth. Welcome to SoulCast, your space for honest conversations on life, spirituality, healing, and everything in between. I'm your host, Mila, and together we explore the depths of self-growth, relationships, community, and culture, all through the lens of soul. Our mission: to lead with light, to illuminate paths for ourselves, our people, and the generations to come. Rooted in truth, guided by spirit, in tune with Mother Nature. You're not alone on this journey, so take a breath and join us for conversations that awaken, heal, and help us all thrive. This is SoulCast. Let's talk about it. The content shared in this podcast is intended for educational and personal development purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussion may include topics related to PTSD, emotional trauma, and mental health challenges, which could be triggering for some listeners. Please take care of yourself and listen at your own pace. Always seek the guidance of a qualified mental health professional or healthcare provider with any questions or concerns you may have regarding your emotional well-being or mental health. The hosts and guests are sharing personal experiences and general information and do not offer individualized therapeutic advice. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast is solely at your own risk. If you are in a crisis or need immediate support, please contact a licensed mental health professional, a crisis line, or emergency services in your area. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this episode today. Today, we are going to be talking about PTSD. What is PTSD? It is post-traumatic stress disorder. The reason why I want to talk about PTSD is because there are a lot of people who are operating in this world, myself included, that are experiencing post-traumatic stress disorders and don't necessarily understand or recognize or even know that it's happening. And I think it's really important to talk about this because we need to bring more awareness, not to just others, but to ourselves, because how we show up for ourselves is how we show up for others, and how we portray the world or how we communicate and just glow in the world, right? And I want to make sure that we all have a better understanding and walk away with more information. So let's get into PTSD and what it looks like. What are the common signs? How to heal from it? What to look for? Like all of these things so that we have a better understanding of what it means. Okay, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a disorder in which a person has difficulty recovering after experiencing or witnessing a terrifying event. This can last up to months, even years, with triggers that can bring back memories of the trauma accompanied by intense emotional and physical. The body is directly influenced as the messenger molecules course through the bloodstream, delivering to trillions of cells the energetic effect of whatever the brain is thinking and feeling. When triggering PTSD, individuals experience a range of intense physical, emotional, and cognitive reactions, often reliving the traumatic event through flashbacks or intense distress. So, what that means essentially is that person in today's moment, so say for right now, I am like going crazy, I am sweating, I am in a panic, fight or flight, and I'm just like, okay, what is happening? What is going on? Nothing has happened. Essentially, is happening, right? But when triggered, something lit like a light in my mind or in my system saying, hey, this is what's happening again. Fight or flight, right? When you see a big old lion right in front of you and you're like, okay, one, I am going to just take flight. I'm about to dip. I'm about to run. I'm not about to, nope, I'm not dealing with this lion. And yeah, it might chase you, but either way, you have a better chance of running right now than staying right here. Or if you're feeling macho or matcha, you are going to fight the lion. Yeah, either way, you are in fear, you are panicking, you are scared, and you'd have to pick a moment right then and there on how you're going to react, right? So essentially, PTSD is similar in that way, where you are going to react and respond in a situation that you are currently experiencing as if it was a past experience that has caused you that trauma. So, I'm going to go over a few things that kind of happens in our body, emotionally, mentally, cognitively, behaviorally, when we are triggered from a post-traumatic stress disorder incident. So, in the physical body, you will experience increased heart rate. You will experience rapid breathing, sweating, shaking, sometimes nausea. And again, these are part of the body's fight or flight response. It's just like our perception of danger, essentially, is what I was saying earlier with the lion, right? In our emotional bodies, right? We feel intense fear. We are panicking. We are currently, experiencing anxiety. We're angry, sad, sometimes numb. And then at a lot of the times, I don't know about anybody else who has experienced PTSD, but I have always felt detached from my surroundings. I'm always like in like tunnel vision where I am just straight and narrow. This is what I got to do. I have to get somewhere. So essentially, I'm like taking flight in my trauma response. In the cognitive mind, right, we are experiencing flashbacks. In some cases, people who have went to war or who have been in a case of like violence, you will essentially experience flashbacks as if you were reliving that moment in your current state of mind. You have a lot of intrusive thoughts. You have difficulty concentrating, and you have a negative thought process about like yourself and the world around you. That's important because there are a lot of things that can contribute to PTSD, not just physical like violence or an intense traumatic experience. Behavioral signifiers of like, what's triggering PTSD. People will withdraw from social situations. So like they will isolate themselves. Or what can happen is that they will avoid places or people that trigger those memories. So people might ignore certain songs that remind them of that day or during that time. Or they'll ignore people who knows, like for example, somebody experienced an altercation with somebody else and people are friends with them, like they will avoid talking to them at all costs. Or if people who know what has happened, you will avoid them as well. In a lot of cases, people will use substances to cope with the distress. So let's talk about 5 common signs of PTSD. And after that, we'll go about understanding these reactions and what it helps with. So one of the most common signs of PTSD is intrusive memories and flashbacks, right? These are unwanted, distressing memories of that traumatic event. Sometimes you have vivid nightmares or you're feeling like the trauma is happening over again in the form of flashbacks. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if anybody who's listening has experienced PTSD or has PTSD or has overcome. Those moments in time where you have a flashback and you think about that moment and then you start to feel very like upset and it starts to trigger your anxiety or your fear or your anger or whatever emotion that is intensely involved with that experience. That is a common sign of PTSD. And it can be a small version of PTSD. It could be a minor, I don't want to say small, it would be more of a minor case. However, intrusive memories and flashbacks are a very common sign of PTSD. A second one is avoidance. Remember, we talked about how people will avoid anything and everything that will trigger those memories, right? So people may try to avoid thoughts as well, feelings or conversations related to that trauma. So have you ever like met somebody who's went through something and you want to talk about it with them, but they're like, no, I don't want to talk about it? Or they have thoughts and they think about certain things and they just want to, I don't want to think about it right now. Like, I don't even want to think about it. And I feel this way. I didn't want to feel that way anymore. So like avoiding at all costs, right? Avoiding people and places and activities that trigger those memories. Like, so for one, you have intrusive memories and you have flashbacks that are not wanted and you don't want them. And then you have to avoid the fact that you have those feelings, those thoughts, those conversations with people that may pertain to the trauma. And third, you have negative changes in your mood and thinking. So this includes like persistent negative emotions like fear, anger, guilt, or shame, as well as like negative beliefs about yourself or the world. So for somebody who's like fearful of like being attacked again, like they will probably avoid everyone at all costs, right? Like they'll also think negatively, like, oh, this person is X, Y, and Z, they could potentially hurt me as well. Like whatever the trauma it pertains to, like you can apply that negative emotion and fear and beliefs that those people are going to do the same thing as you, right? It's a little paranoid if you really think about it. It can be. However, this is a sign, a sign you have some sort of PTSD. So if you feel like you have so far these three, just kind of keep a lookout, keep an eye out, and then just kind of tap in with yourself and check to see, okay, what is this? Where is this coming from? What am I experiencing right now? And then kind of just go from there. The fourth common sign is your changes in arousal and reactivity. You become easily startled or feeling constantly on edge or hyper vigilant. Sometimes you have a lot of angry outbursts or engaging in risky behaviors. Being easily startled, sometimes people are very jumpy. Sometimes if they're a war vet or if they've experienced a shooting and something that was very traumatic to them in their own way, they'll be easily startled or they'll be scared or they'll be on edge all the time. And there's no rest at all. That contributes to a lot of cognitive attacks, and your well-being, it just kind of goes down. It trembles a little bit. Number 5, you have difficulty concentrating or sleeping. PTSD can lead to problems with focus, memory, and sleep disturbances, insomnia, nightmares, all those things. These are the 5 most common signs. I'm going to repeat them to you really quick. 1 is intrusive memory/flashbacks. 2, avoidance. 3, negative changes in your mood and your thinking patterns. 4, changes in arousal and reactivity. 5, difficulty concentrating or sleeping. I want to say one thing again. My experiences with this PTSD, it's a lot. I didn't realize I suffered from PTSD and still experience my PTSD till about 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. I only believed that people in the military who went off to war or people who have experienced like shootings or like high violence activity are the only people who can experience PTSD. For me, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something there, but I don't necessarily know. It's just normal. This happens. You have a situation. It affects you. You understand that the situation is affecting you, and then you do the best you can to manage the situation without knowing what's actually wrong with you. And then your outlook and your behaviors and your thought patterns and your personality is all shaped from this event, and you don't realize the impact it has on you, essentially. Sorry if that is not making any sense. You just write it out with me. In the situation where I had a couple of questions when I was researching this topic and just kind of diving deep and understanding more and more of what PTSD is. And I asked Google, can gaslighting cause PTSD? Yes. Gaslighting itself is actually not a direct cause of PTSD. It is, though, a form of emotional abuse that can lead to psychological trauma, essentially, which is a significant risk factor for developing PTSD. Full circle. Here is how and why gaslighting can contribute to causing PTSD. You have the erosion of reality. First of all, let me go back and talk about gaslighting. Gaslighting is when somebody is manipulating someone else to doubt their own reality, perceptions, memories, and sanity. We all know gaslighting is to make you think that you are going crazy. They want you to believe that everything you are thinking is wrong and what they are saying is right. Doubting, we all know what that does. Okay, so here's why gaslighting essentially can cause PTSD. It creates a deep sense of confusion, anxiety, and it causes someone to distrust their own thoughts and experiences. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That makes you go crazy. You're in a high sense of panic and anxiety. And then with that activated, it's not safe anywhere for you anymore. And then you are stuck in fight or flight, fawn, appease, all these other responses as well. Don't think I forgot. But yes, of course, you have PTSD. Gaslighting causes psychological trauma. The continuous invalidation of one's reality can be extremely traumatic in a deep sense, leading to emotional distress, anxiety, and depression, which is what I just said. With that, it causes someone to have difficulty trusting. They can severely damage an individual's ability to trust their own judgment and the intentions of others, making it extremely difficult for that person to make healthy relationships and or seek support. Gaslighting, in a nutshell, can cause PTSD, y'all. So those who are out there invalidating people's experiences, constantly making them think that they are crazy and just not listening and understanding them, you are emotionally abusing somebody. And when you are emotionally abusing somebody, that is traumatic. That is extremely traumatic. So again, while gaslighting doesn't directly cause PTSD, it can create the conditions and experiences that make someone vulnerable to developing that disorder. Yes. And I'm not saying, only narcissist people. On a day-to-day basis, people gaslight each other on a very small, very minor level. And even though we don't think it's gonna be a big deal, we do gaslight in little forms, in little ways. So just in the end, let's just be more kind and compassionate and loving, myself included. I'm not saying it's just to y'all. We need to be more mindful and have a lot more awareness of when we are going to invalidate somebody's experience, right? That's essentially what I was going with. So, talked about gaslighting and how it's a form of emotional abuse, right? So, from that question, I was like, you know what? Just because my own experiences and relationships and just friendships and just life overall, I was like, so if gaslight is a form of emotional abuse and can contribute and leave somebody vulnerable to develop PTSD, can you develop PTSD from emotional abuse? To validate my own experience, right? I was being a little selfish here, right? Short answer, yes. Short answer is yes, okay? Emotional abuse actually can create a subcategory of PTSD that a lot of people don't know about, don't think is real, or aren't aware of. Yes, there are categories and subcategories of PTSD, and this is a huge one. It's CPTSD. CPTSD is one of the most severe forms of PTSD. It is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Let me repeat that for you. CPTSD is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Emphasis on complex, please. Complex. You want to know why? Okay, let me read over through this stuff first because my notes are important. But complex PTSD is a real thing, and it's even more intense. And the reason why it's complex, y'all are going to bug out when you guys listen to my findings. Okay, so emotional abuse, for one, can cause long and short-term mental and physical detrimental well-being. Like, it is detrimental on somebody's well-being overall. People experience frequent crying, and I'm going to say, for one, those who have known me for over 10 years, they can tell you that at some point I became a huge crier, especially when I was drunk. Especially when I was flat out drunk, I was always crying. Anyways, okay. So you have frequent crying, you have anxiety, confusion, guilt, shame. These are all the most common side effects of emotional abuse. And it's a lot, emotional trauma is so complex because it literally messes with your cognitive your cognitive dissonance, first of all, and then it also messes with once it starts working with your cognitive, it triggers that emotion, right? That emotion of feeling anxiety, you're scared, you're fearful, you're angry, you're upset, you're sad, all these numbness, and then it's overwhelming, right? But then also, if you learn in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, if you've ever taken that or have not taken that, I would suggest you do, or at least read about what it is and get the basics of it, because it really does help. So their format is to be okay, when a thought is had, it triggers an emotion, and the emotion triggers a behavior, and then the cycle repeats, right? So with emotional trauma, that is so complex to try to fix, and especially with somebody who continuously experiences very traumatic relationships or traumatic events, in a year by year basis or month to month. It can start burying holes over and digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So, all right, what is trauma and what is emotional trauma? Actually, emotional trauma is when someone has been manipulated, abused, or gaslit. We talked about gaslighting earlier. This may involve verbal insults, excursion of physical and mental control, and causing fear to the point where you socially isolate yourself. How many of y'all feel like you have experienced emotional trauma? I'm raising my hand. I'm sure people who are listening and still tuned in this episode have experienced emotional trauma. So, thank you for participating. Yes, so emotional trauma is big. Emotional abuse. I'm going to go over a few things that really contribute to emotional trauma and is considered emotional abuse. And keep an eye out, or keep an ear out, I would say, because you're listening, to see if you do that, or if you know somebody who has done, or if you are experiencing it. Yes, because this will give people the information that they need, and give yourself the information that you need to be able to understand what you are experiencing, and to get yourself in a healthier state of mind position, than you are in right now, if you are currently experiencing these things, or if you know somebody who is. Okay, so forms of emotional abuse: being belittled or humiliated. I don't know about you guys, but I have been humiliated and belittled in so many different ways. Being belittled is little things. It's you're doing something, you're totally living in your authenticity, and someone's like, well, why are you doing it that way? I don't think that looks good on you, or I don't think that, you're worth X, Y, and Z. You're belittling somebody. And if you do that in front of people, now you're humiliating that person. So keep that in mind. Being yelled at or name called. We all know. Being yelled at is a form of belittling. Who are you yelling at? Why are you yelling at me? And who do you think you are? Right? So, but in the moments of these situations, it's very serious, and not a laughing matter at all. But yeah, being yelled at and being name called, oh, you're a crybaby, or you're dramatic, or you're this or that. And I have to work on that a little bit too. Oh, you're just being so dramatic. I say it friendly, but it's a word that still has power, right? So I need to work on that as well for myself. Being threatened with anger or violence. Having your freedom or your privacy stripped away. That's a very important one, because then that pulls you away from who you are, your home energy, and that starts to lead into some type of control and narcissistic tendencies. So we'll move on from that. Being gaslit, again, making you just kind of question yourself. Having someone always track your whereabouts, right? That's a big one. Because then you have no sense of privacy. You have no sense of freedom. You can't do much because this person's constantly tracking you and your whereabouts all the time. All the time. Another one is being kept away from your loved ones. Isolation, right? So we all understand that narcissists like to do this. So just, those are just little ways of acknowledging emotional abuse. Common signs of PTSD from emotional abuse. So this is how you're going to recognize um, someone is being emotionally abused, or or if you are being emotionally abused, um, or you can be the emotional abuser and you don't want to be that. And sometimes it's just about a level of awareness, right? So, um, signs of PTSD from emotional abuse: being nervous, like all the time. All the time. Like you're always nervous. You're constantly like left and right. No sense of ease. You develop an eating disorder. Yes. So you can go from eating normal to like not eating at all or eating too much. So be aware of that and seeing, like, is that happening? You have impulsive behavior. You do everything on the spot randomly. Like you normally don't do this, but then now you want to do it because it's just like, hey, like why not? Um, you are reliving past traumas, right? Reliving as in like you picked the same situation that you had just left from and got right into the same one over again. Um, Nothing wrong with that. We're just trying to bring more awareness. Having nightmares or flashbacks, feeling negative all the time. You have emotional issues, so you don't know what you're feeling. You don't have focus on how you're feeling, or you feel a lot. Um, and feeling a lot, as in like feeling a lot of negativity. Not necessarily like feelings are bad; they're not bad, um, or they're not good. There's no good or bad feelings; they're just feelings. You have insomnia. You're jumpy or you startle easily. Having uncontrollable angry outbursts, right? You're often feeling extreme anger or rage. You have a substance abuse like addiction, or you're constantly relying on some type of substance, weed, alcohol, to satisfy them all. Damn. Um, you're experiencing excessive negative thoughts, like I mentioned before, feeling extremely negative, and you struggle to fall asleep or stay asleep. So you're battling insomnia frequently. Um, yeah, so like these are just like most common signs of PTSD from the emotional abuse. And I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about a few ways to kind of heal from these things and just kind of bring more awareness to move past the experience that has negatively impacted you in such a traumatic way. So, understanding all these reactions, whether it's emotional abuse or just like a violent act of PTSD, any form of PTSD, understanding these reactions really help with self-awareness, coping strategies, and like seeking support. So when you have that self-awareness and you recognize these patterns, or these reactions, you want to remind yourself that they're normal, right? Like these reactions and responses are completely normal because you experienced something traumatic. And when you have this understanding of, that this is a normal response to trauma, you can really manage them a lot better, right? It can really help with managing them. Another thing is like coping strategies. Find like grounding techniques. So deep breaths. That will definitely help with calming the body's stress response, right, to the fight or flight. Deep breaths would definitely help, or focusing on like sensory details. So like always kind of go back to, okay, so what am I seeing right now? What am I hearing? What am I touching, tasting, smelling? That'll help you tap back into reality and like where you are today. And then relaxation exercises like yoga or stretching, um, dancing, something to kind of help you relax and get out of that state of panic. Seeking support, right? Talk to your loved ones, talk to someone that you really trust. If not, and you don't want any of that judgment, go to therapy. Talk to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, therapist. Um, Take medication if you need to, if something that helps with cognitive, um, you know, marking that, sorry. Take medication. There are things that help with stress support. There are things that can help with, if you're lacking sleep and you need to sleep a lot more and get your restore of 8 hours going for you. Definitely take some medication. Or there are support groups out there. If you want somebody who could like truly, truly, truly relate to you, there are groups that people have experienced very similar, if not the same, very similar. Overall, this will help improve your well-being. Again, using your support system, like talking to those trust ones, can really help you get through this and rebuild trust in yourself and others. Like if you can get these things going and start like your healing process from that traumatic experience that you've had, it'll help so much. So again, use your support system, talk to a therapist if you need to, try to rebuild trust in yourself and others. Recognize the residue of gaslighting as well. Journaling and like therapy definitely does help. And what I would suggest with that is just like journaling and validating yourself, reminding yourself like, hey, like I went through this, or hey, I feel like this. Like seeking and regaining your power is so important. So important. I would say set and reinforce boundaries. Practice saying no. That is not for me. That's not what I want. Like that will definitely help you heal from the emotional abuse part, I would say. Take control of your breathing, like I said earlier, your thoughts, breathing, enhance your sleeping environments. If you need to take some medication or some supplements that'll help you increase your sleeping patterns, definitely do it. If that means doing a yoga session before bed to kind of calm the nervous system, do it. Keep your body strong. Exercising is one of the best things that you can do to increase your healing and your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. That's all I can say. Get creative and express yourself. Express yourself through art, journaling, podcasts. Create if you need to pick up a hobby. If you need to create anything. Like there's so many like craft stores that you can get into something. You could do DIY everything. um, Excuse me. I'm recording this at 10 o'clock at night. Also, another important thing to help heal through like emotional abuse and just like your PTSD, avoid isolation at all costs. Let me repeat that myself. Avoid isolation. Avoid it, please. Go out with friends. Go see a movie. Have fun. Call somebody. Do not isolate yourself to where you are not talking to anybody. Like, please don't. Like, you deserve to talk to people and have fun. It's also about, honestly, if you want to think about it, it's also about what you don't do, right? Do not allow yourself to fall into depression, which means avoid isolation, right? Go hang out with your friends. Go make that move. Go pick up that pen and paper and write, or that paintbrush and canvas and paint your life away. Do things that will help you get out of that funk. And also, my biggest thing, and that I safely try to do all the time, is create a safe and peaceful environment at home. Create your home the way you need to. Not for everybody else, not when you have guests and visitors, but for you. You pay rent, you work, and you pay all the bills. So if you need to make it as safe and free and flowy as possible, if you need to add all the plants that you like or don't, if you need to put all these nice neon lights and make it very like colorful, do that too. Create a safe space for yourself. If you want to seek support and reach out to people, overall guys, PTSD is a real thing. And if somebody is experiencing this alone, offer some support. Take them out and say, hey, let's go do this, or how are you? It's extremely important. It's extremely important to have a support system. Some people who are experiencing PTSD will isolate themselves. And the best thing that we can do is become more aware and knowledgeable of what this does to somebody as an individual and see how you can show up for them. It's all about showing up. That's all it is. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of SoulCast. We're truly honored to be a part of your healing and self-discovery journey. If you found today's episode meaningful, don't forget to add SoulCast to your podcast library so you never miss an episode. We would love to hear from you. Send your thoughts, questions, or topics you'd like us to cover to soulfullyme@gmail.com or connect with us on Instagram at soulfullyme. And if this episode resonated with you, please rate and comment on the podcast. Your feedback helps us grow and reach others who may need this space too. Until next time, take care of your soul gently, patiently, and with love. Talk to y'all later. Where is your soul right now? Are you just awakening? I'm only beginning to name the ache. This is the first breath of awareness. Or are you seeking safe ground where I long for calm, a place to land where my nervous system can finally exhale? Or are you even walking through fire? Old pain is surfacing. I'm standing in the burn, learning to survive the flame. Or are you healing in soft ways? My healing is quiet and tender. I'm choosing peace in small, gentle moments. Or are you holding space for others? I've walked the path. Now I light the way for someone else with love and patience. Or are you simply just listening inwardly? I'm tuning into the whispers within. My truth is unfolding, one wordless moment at a time. Where are you in your soul at right now? Please answer in the polls below.